This will surprise no one who listens to this show, but America is single. It's divorced, undercommitted, and hopelessly out of touch with how to build a relationship that lasts. Women in particular are groomed for a life centered on career and on being fiercely independent, as though marriage and family were a nice idea or a possible accompaniment to an otherwise satisfying life. But if flying solo is so great, why are online dating sites a billion-dollar industry, replete with clients looking to get hitched? In my new book, How to Get Hitched and Stay Hitched, which is available now for pre-order, women get a much-needed detox from the cultural narratives they've absorbed about men, sex, love, marriage, work, and family. Modern women don't need any more help in the professional sphere. They have that in spades. What they don't have is guidance in love and life. How to Get Hitched is not about finding a husband per se, but about how to map out a life that works in every sphere, including marriage and children. It offers women a new roadmap with specific countercultural guidelines that will help them be successful in this domain. How to Get Hitched is the antidote women need to reject the lies they've been fed by our culture. It's about what you really want versus what you've been told you should want, and about what is true of men in marriage versus what you've been told is true. Get ready. This book will rock your world. Just go to howtogethitched.net and you'll find all the information you need there. Again, that's howtogethitched.net. And now, on with the show. From the magnificent Midwest, it's the Suzanne Venker Show, where men and women are equal in value but wildly different by nature. Join us here every week when we challenge the culture's hugely flawed narratives about men, women, sex, and love. From coast to coast and from around the world, thank you for joining us. So some of you know that I have had Andre Paradis on this show from time to time, and even 2 months in a row a while back. For those of you who don't know Andre, he's a dating and relationship coach, a business owner, and artist who is on a mission to teach singles and couples how to create and maintain successful relationships. Well, his wife, Nancy, reached out to me to tell me a bit about her story and experiences as they relate to what Andre and I teach. And it's really very fascinating. Definitely something you're going to want to hear. So I decided to invite her on. Welcome to the show, Nancy.
Hello, hello. I'm so excited to be here, Suzanne.
I'm so glad to talk with you. Thank you for reaching out. I think this is going to be a great conversation. I kind of vaguely knew what you did and a little bit of your story through Andre, bits and pieces. I know that you guys and my husband and I we're the same age. We have a son and a daughter, same age. We're living very parallel lives, even though you're out in LA
Yeah.
and dealing with that.
Thank
and I'm
you.
in the Midwest.
Yes.
It's a little bit easier for me, I think.
Man, oh man.
Another conversation.
Yes, it is. But yeah, no, I'm excited to be here. And when I reached out and sent you a video of some topics, I was surprised how things just kind of rolled off on what I had to say. So
yeah, they were, and you're right. They're so matched with what I talk about and with what Andre deals with. So let's get right to it. I want to talk about your background as a ballerina, for one thing, and then how that led into other things when you eventually had to make choices.
Yes.
About that and where that led and how it worked out. And then we'll get from there into the other conversation about teaching as at a community college and how you address the issues there. So let's just start with you.
Woo! Yeah. Well, 6 years old, took my first ballet class and I was hooked. It was just insane. And like this laser focus of this is what I'm going to do. This is my passion, at 6. And I just was super focused and it just, artistically, we artists don't make these decisions with our head. We get bitten by the artist bug. Mm-hmm. And by 15, I started my career. I had to move away from home. And, when opportunity strikes, especially in the ballet world, you just take it. And so I was a trainee to the Washington Ballet in DC. by 15, and by 17, I had my first contract in Richmond Ballet. And, you know, I have been incredibly lucky with very nurturing, good environments in the ballet world, and which comes from the director. But soon I realized, you know, it's competitive. You're always pushing, especially when casting, you know, it's never stopping. I think it wore me out pretty quickly, because I did this for about 6 years. I went from Richmond to Louisville Ballet. And then I traveled cross country to come to LA just to help a friend move, and decided to do a game changer and move here.
And from Louisville at that point?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
Big change.
Big change. I'm not quite sure what I was thinking. And I went to Louisville to get out of the South from Richmond. Really? You know, so
Yep.
I say that something was guiding me, because it didn't make any sense. And, you know, it would have been very easy to just stay in Virginia and be in my little company, which was a wonderful company, and it still is today. But I think I was getting worn out pretty quickly without even knowing it, because you're just young. You just,
Yep.
you know, and so what would be the next thing to just...
Well, okay. So I have a quote here that you had written. This is so we're going to get to this part of a book that you were in. And that's
Okay.
where I took these quotes from that you had written. But you said, it's unheard of for a ballerina to break a contract in the ballet world, but I listened, followed my heart, and moved to LA. I met my husband in that same year and have an amazing family. Although having a career in the arts has been a vision of mine since I was 6, what's been the most rewarding gift for me is finding the man of my dreams and having a family with 2 incredible children. So
Absolutely.
that gets to, obviously, the choices that we make in our life that we were talking about before, and how you went from this one place in your life to another. So just talk to us about that, and how that went down.
Sure. Well, you know, so I do this whole game changer where I've already done all my training, and then I go to LA, where you pretty much have to start all over again. And I remember thinking, a little diva action going on there. Like, I've already done my training, you know, I should just be booking jobs. And, you know, LA is a whole different game of, you just have to approach it a whole different way. Yeah. And working it and schmoozing in a different way. But I did okay, you know, and I did fitness work and some movies and commercials, and then, but like you said, I did meet Andre, my husband, within the first year. He was
And how did you
artist.
meet? Did I get this story?
No, I don't think so. I had to, you know, ballerina in LA doesn't do so well. So I was taking jazz. I had to, you know, retrain, and I was following this one jazz teacher who did a gig and was in Florida, and there's a substitute teacher, and it was Andre. And so I met him in his class, and then continued taking his class, and then we went on a date, and the rest is history.
No, you skipped over there. How did you just go on a date? Did he like call you up after class, or what happened?
Yeah, I was taking class Monday, Wednesday, Friday for about 2 months, and one day I didn't show up. And it happened to be a day he was going to ask me out on a date after class. And he went to the front desk, and he's like, I want Nancy, my maiden name's Ferraro, and I want her phone number. They're like, no, we can't do that. And he like kind of scared them a little bit. It's like, I want her phone number. And he called me up. Now here's a little twist here. I was living with the guy that I drove cross country with to come. He wanted to be an actor.
Yeah.
So it was a little awkward.
Uh-huh.
But it was just, he was not my love. It was just, we're here together. So I agreed to go out on a date with my jazz teacher. And he had no idea I was living with someone. So that got clarified on the first date from some other dancer who had asked him, why are you in such a great mood? He's like, I'm going to take Nancy on a date. And she was so happy to say, oh, she's living with somebody. They're going to get married.
Oh my.
Yeah. And that's not true at all. So that was our conversation on our first date.
Okay.
So, you know, how's your boyfriend? And I was just so embarrassed. And, you know, so we had to clean that stuff up, which took a couple of weeks. And then we began dating, you know, exclusively. And of course, his version of this is quite longer and more detailed. But there was just something, again, kind of guiding. We both wound up coming to LA in the same year. and, found each other at the famous Debbie Reynolds studio in North Hollywood, it's now knocked down, but that's where we met. It was iconic. And, we started dating, and just it fell into place. This is the man of my dreams, this kind person, women all over, teaching at that time was 50 people in a class, high energy.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed to be there to retrain in order to try to get jobs, here in LA. And that's what happened and how we met.
So then, and at that point, so that was a turning point, obviously, because instead of just focusing on your career, you well, how old were you then at this point?
Yeah, I was 23.
23. And how old was he?
He was 27.
Okay. And so then how quickly did everything go from there in terms of getting married and having the 2 kids that you have?
We dated for a year,
mm-hmm.
and then we got engaged.
Mm-hmm.
And so that 2 years from meeting to getting married. And then what was really cool, and I always honor this time period, there was about 7 years that we both worked, in a sense, independently, because his career was very different than mine. And we traveled, we went to different countries, working as in the commercial field, dancing. And so for me, Andre got on this really great, we call it getting the train, where he's working with Michael Jackson and Prince and Julio Iglesias and, all these great gigs. I got a great gig in 99. So we had been married for about 7 years. And the MTV Awards, I just felt really fulfilled. Like, okay, I did it. I did something really cool here in LA. I came home that night after we had filmed, and I said, I'm ready to start a family. And it kind of gives me chills right now, but I knew he had been ready before me for years.
He had been what?
Ready. Yeah. And we actually, that was 99. We had our son in 2000.
So yeah, because see, that's when I had my daughter. That's why we have the same, along the same thing there. Now, it was interesting that you said you were married for 7 years. I was trying to do the math on that, because if you married him at 24, I was just about to say before you said that it really isn't until the children, right? The conversation around the children and then having the children, until children enter the equation, let's put it that way, where that detour occurs. It's really not getting married, right? So that's why I was going to say, how'd that go down with you guys? Because I didn't realize you had those 7 years together, which I think is awesome. And it also goes really well with the new book I have coming out this year, when I'm trying to help women focus on, hey, find your guy. The issue with work and family, that can be figured out down the road if you have your guy. But if you try to push it all off 10 years, you're going to struggle. So I love that. And I have another friend who actually waited 9 years and got married at 22.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting trajectory. It wasn't my story, but I think it's very fascinating and interesting and a great way of doing it. And so once you had the kids, then did you full on home for X amount of years, or how did that go down?
It was a beautiful combination of work, stepping out just a couple days a week. I had started teaching pretty much right when I came to LA, teaching kids at a kid's studio a couple days a week. And I continued that. And that was really my time. And this is, I think, one of the topics I had sent you, Suzanne, like, how do you navigate this? People think you get to give up everything. And that's probably the worst thing, because I would step out to go teach, and I did have a babysitter come in, but on Saturday mornings, Andre had the kids. And that was their time with him. Like, I wouldn't want to take that away from him. And then I got to recharge and refuel, because this stuff makes me feel great to step out and teach a little bit, but very, very part-time. And, and he was beginning the business that we had held for 20 years, which was an auto body shop. So it was perfect.
Andre is the one who has a great phrase for this. And I want to use it going forward, because I think it's very smart. He basically outlines the difference between whether you're a career woman or a woman with a career.
Yes.
And you and I are the same. Everything you just described was exactly how I did things with my husband. Only it was book writing instead of stepping out to teach people, in schools or whatever. But the idea is the same. And it's it's a massive difference in lifestyle and choices, isn't it? Whether you're a career woman or a woman with a career. A woman with a career means that bingo, marriage and family is your focus. That's it. It's the bulk of your energy and your time, and everything is factored around that nucleus.
Yes.
And so it doesn't mean you don't have any employment for 20 years. It means whatever employment you do, whether it's self-employed, whether it's part-time, it's done around the needs of the children, and it's done in piecemeal fashion and in very, very part-time fashion for X amount of years until you can up your game, which I have done recently because I'm about to be an empty nester.
Empty nester.
As of August. Well, I guess you are too. Wait,
Oh,
I didn't even ask you about that. Don't you have somebody graduating?
They're hanging on. Oh, we've got both have graduated high school or in 2 years college. Our daughter just finishing her first year. And maybe because of COVID, we still have them at home.
You still have them at home. Okay. Got it. Yeah. So our daughter's in Texas and our son's going off to Indiana in August, and it's just Bill and me. Gonna be interesting.
Yes. I do think about that time, and I'm, you'll have to let me know. But you said that so beautifully, because I had no idea of any of this, that I was actually doing it right. Yeah. We did what I thought I could do and handle.
Right.
And thank God, because
dropping, and what was, sorry, go ahead. I didn't interrupt you.
Well, just dropping them off at daycare, before kindergarten, but it was only like 4 or 5 hours. It wasn't these 8, 10 hour days that we now know are so destructive to children. And
I was going to ask you what your messaging on this front was growing up and what your modeling was.
Well, my mom, she loved being a mother. She loved I have 5 older brothers, Italian Catholic family. She just loved everything about it, but she did work too. Like when I got to be a little bit older, but middle school age, she had a job at Sears. She had a job at the county building. And I thought that's pretty cool. And it was part-time.
But you said you were the youngest of 5 and you were in middle school when she did that. So that's a lot of years ago first. Yeah. Yep. Yeah,
it is. It is. And then we would have time with Dad. He would make really bad meals sometimes, and we loved it.
Exactly. Not that men can't cook. Anybody listening, don't take offense.
No, not at all. We loved it. Macaroni and cheese and hot dogs.
Yeah, I bet. So I think it's always pizza if I go anywhere.
So that's interesting. I've never been asked that question before, so I had to.
Yeah, I was just curious because you said you sort of accidentally did it, what turned out to be the right way.
Yeah.
But not so purposefully the way I think probably I did, or I know I did. And that was undoubtedly because of the way my mother did things. So that's why I asked you.
Okay.
I do think so much of our choices in this regard have to do with what we were told growing up and what we were modeled. Yeah. And either you want to copy it, you want to emulate it because you loved it, right? Or you didn't and you want to do it a different way. I mean, I don't know what other choices there are. Or in your case, maybe you just didn't think about it because your mom, I don't know. I shouldn't say there's just 2 ways. I guess there's a third, which is that you don't really give it a lot of thought anyway, and you just sort of fall into whatever you fall into.
Well, some people who have family nearby or their mom nearby, parents that can help when the babies are young. I could really see you could fall into that trap of working full time, thinking everything's covered, but we didn't have that. We had no family out here. So, just bringing in a sitter a couple days a week,
is
that's
expensive.
Enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it offsets. It's got to offset whatever work you're doing a couple hours a week. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So your message with all of that is ultimately that I had this thing, it was my focus. And then this man came into my life. We had a family, and it just sort of changed my whole perspective and my priorities, which is completely normal. And you then have tried to take that message out into the world with this. You're an adjunct professor at a community college. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
And so you told me about bringing Andre in to speak on LMU Career Day. I don't know what LMU is.
Yeah. Okay. So there's community college and then Loyola Marymount's a private Catholic university. So 2 different spectrums here. So I'll just take it. I would always bring Andre in to speak. In the performing arts, it's all about how you're presenting yourself and communication. So I would bring him to talk about his career and inspire the kids, but ultimately he would wind up teaching them what he teaches, about relationships, about energy, about, respect. And it would go really well. They were really fascinated and open. Before COVID hit, and I was teaching at Loyola Marymount, this is private Catholic university, and it used to be girls only, but now it's co-ed. But I brought him in. It was sort of a career day. Like, what are you guys going to do when you get out of here? Although they're training in the dance and performing arts, there's so many different avenues they could take. And so what started with career and focusing on that, of course, it morphed into what he does teach, and women having the different choices and your energy. And, what if you do want to have a family and get married? And he just crashed and burned. And like, this is not something you talk about
on college campuses in particular.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was
so define crashed and burned.
Just looking around the room. Now the students had respect for me, so they weren't going to be disrespectful, but their energy was that of rolling their eyes, like, when's this over with? Now there was one student, and she happens to be from the Midwest. She's like, well, how do I navigate,
we're so smart in the Midwest.
Thank God for you all having a career. What if I want a career? Because that's, balancing is not discussed. And it was just so obvious. And, these girls, they had it all figured out, and they're going to get multiple degrees and all for it. But can we at least just have this conversation of, do you want to get married and, work this out? So ultimately we were able to have him. He was our guest instructor. It worked out okay. We had brought books for them as a gift. None of them took them.
Which books? Oh,
a book that Andre had co-authored.
Yeah. Okay.
Just as gifts. So it was just really eye-opening.
Yeah, I bet. That must. So what? How long ago was that?
That was. It was fall before COVID hit. So was that 2019?
So that's kind of in the throes of Andre has his podcast, right? And you were helping him with that for a little bit, right?
Yes.
And
that's right.
He's full on coaching, basically the same type of thing that I do, only I think more for single women, whereas I work more with married people. But but essentially the same, masculine, feminine dynamics and sex differences and all of that.
Yes.
So that must have been really fascinating to be like, kind of going back and forth between talking with people in their 30s and 40s about this, who are, correct me if I'm wrong, at least this is what happens with me, dying for this information, inhaling it like nobody's business, thinking it's the best thing they've ever heard. And you're now talking to 20-year-olds who are eschewing what you're saying and rolling their eyes.
Absolutely.
It's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. Like I always say, the 20 somethings are looking at me like, yeah, right, whatever. And the 30 are just lapping up everything I'm saying. That shows you what happened during those 10 years right there. Bam.
Yeah. I mean, you're tired, they're tired by 30.
And push. Something you wrote is really gets to the heart of the cultural message that we're fighting, which is, you said a lot of the dancers I work with are healing from the push to go be and go do.
Yes.
And it's this need to achieve in the outside world and prove something that is exhausting them. And then they hit 30 and I just want to get married and have kids.
Yeah.
God damn. I just want to be happy and have a simple life.
Absolutely.
And they were set up to fail, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because it didn't have to be that way, because the values shifted.
Yeah. And there's that exact quote came from another gal who's ahead of me here in Los Angeles, with holding a smaller company, who is a single, lovely woman, but she just recently said those words, like, I just want to get married and, let a guy help support me, and maybe I can do this part-time, and it's like, how much more you want to push and be exhausted.
It's like the social narrative that you've been living out for years bumps right into biology, right around 30.
Yeah.
Society, biology, and it overwhelms you. You can't even help it. It happens to you, and they're shocked because nobody told them.
Right.
Nobody told them.
No.
This is
No.
why, and
Woo!
I hate to keep bringing my book up that's coming up in a few months, but I can't help it because I'm literally in the throes of getting ready to release that, and that's what the whole damn thing is for. It's saying you've been lied to. This is a mess. Here's the right way to succeed in life and in love, and it requires making good decisions early on and not waiting to the last minute, and it requires absolute rejection of the culture. So it's a tall order, but I don't see any other way out of it. I mean, you have to go this way. Otherwise what? What?
And I want to get that book, Suzanne. But there's another angle here I want to throw at you. So here in enlightened land, and that's with quotation marks,
LA, you mean?
Personal growth and seminar, and especially in the women's work that we find ourselves, in. I think I had mentioned this, that I'm here assisting my husband, helping him be great, helping being the backbone, and I'm pretty good at production and putting on events anyway. And I just wanted to share from these enlightened women. So we think I've been made fun of for supporting my husband. I've been, in a sense, ridiculed. And there's something that's really dangerous that I wanted to share because it's invisible. And so unfortunately, these comments were from single women, but it's just because of the nature of the work, I thought everybody was enlightened, And so I was kind of made fun of for supporting my husband in an event, and I was called, Nancy, you are such a great Vanna White. And we're about to start this event, so I didn't want to start anything.
Right.
And I'm like, wait, did I just get insulted here? Because I'm not totally quick on these kind of things. I'm like, holy crap. Now here's another one where I went to a women's event only, where this gal who greeted me knows Andre's work and supports him fully, and greeted me with, oh, it's so great to see you here. You know what? You need to take care of yourself because you just, support him, and it can't be all about him. And I'm like, I was blown away how quickly I was going to jump on that train. Like, yeah, I need to take care of myself. And I'm like, wait, she doesn't even know me.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Gosh. So don't you think so much of this is personality based? Because you and I have talked about this before, or maybe it was with Andre, where, my book, The Alpha Females Guide.
Yes.
And so he and I would talk about how, you're more of a natural beta. I hate using these words actually, because I think people misunderstand them, but let's just say type A or type B or whatever, more relaxed, not necessarily as, maybe strong-minded for sure, but not necessarily strong-willed. And I think those are two terms that are worth explaining, because you have a strong mind does not necessarily have to mean having a strong will where you have to have your way all the time, in other words. So you have a personality, I think, that's more like my daughter's, which is just more naturally easygoing and not argumentative for the sake of arguing, just to have an argument. I don't mean that you wouldn't argue your point if you needed to, but I mean you wouldn't start one just for no reason or whatever. Just not difficult, let's put it that way. Just nicer. How about that? Softer, nicer. Like, that's a personality to some degree. So I would imagine, the reason I'm saying this is I could imagine when this person said this to you, you remind me of someone who's just so lovely and nice. You wouldn't even think to do that. You would never do what that person did. Right. So you're like taken aback for a moment, like, oh my God, did I just hear that? And if so, how do I respond to it? Because it's not your natural way to get into a debate with someone. Is that right or wrong?
That's right on. Right on. Yeah.
So I'm sorry for that. That's just so unfortunate.
Well, and
No, I mean about the guy saying, doing that to you, because it you need a moment to kind of catch your breath and be like, what the hell just happened?
Exactly. That's exactly what happened. But what's really dangerous is how quick I was almost there to go, yeah, she's right. I should, I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. That's not what's going on at all. And I am an introvert, and it could be perceived that I am being walked over or whatever to people who don't know me, but that's
Whatever.
You know what I mean? Whatever.
Yeah.
That's your perception.
Yeah.
So for all the introverts out there, like we have a lot going on and we don't usually talk too much, but when it's time to kick in, we do. So why I'm saying this is we're being bombarded by all kinds of messages all day long. You know, you don't need no man, go, and I think I've mentioned this, don't go run one business, run three and be a CEO of another. And like, it's unending. And I've been in business seminars out here where women are just being applauded for owning 3 companies.
Yep.
It's like, when's enough? I love making my man a sandwich. I love bringing him a cup of coffee or a soda when he's on a podcast. You know what I mean? Like,
it's the best.
Yeah.
It's the best.
So,
See, and they won't know that. They won't know that. And that's unfortunate.
No.
And it's just such a misunderstanding of how it's supposed to work, and what it means. There's just no comprehension. I can't even imagine being out in LA with this because I mean, it's bad everywhere, but come on, LA and New York, it's really bad. And so I feel for you. I hope you have a posse of like-minded couples around you and Andre to offset that.
Thank you. Slowly building. Yeah.
So like I said before, you and I both have a son and a daughter who are effectively members of Generation Z. And what are you seeing on your end? I'm going to tell you what I'm seeing on mine just through my limited just by being parents of this generation and watching their friends and listening to them with respect to this issue and what we're talking about. You tell me what you're seeing and I'll tell you what I'm seeing. And I'm wondering if geography will have anything to do with it.
Well, yeah. We have not only our kids, but we have about 5 other teenagers that come on over, our son's friends.
Yeah.
And we talk to them about this stuff. And they are very, very aware, and they are incredibly smart, even without us as their parents. I think they would blow off stuff that's trying to be forced down their throats in schools. They know that the one example is a male and a female brain are not the same. And one English teacher was trying to pass this bullshit on our son.
Yeah.
And Andre was there the next day. I think.
Wait. Don't pass over that. I want to hear more about that. Wait, this is public school, right? This is a public school?
Yes, this is public school. And
go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Andre literally burst down the door. Like, what is this crap? Because it was a, what do you call it? A presentation the teacher had done the day before. And the teacher, and this is English class of all places. Why is this crap in your English? He's like, no, you don't understand. We're being fed this information. We have to teach it, the way we're being presented. And so they had a debate over this, and the teacher just was pretty much hands up in the air. Like, I can't negate, what I have to teach my class. And
so Andre went in there to the teacher, and the teacher was saying, I have to do this. So he was kind of agreeing with Andre, you mean?
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, but our son and his friends knew this was crap. And so they seem to be very, very aware of what's going on. We do talk to them about it, of course. And the whole dating thing. We asked our son years ago when he first started high school, what are the girls like in your, school? And he's like, they're shitty. All of them. Mm-hmm. And it was just really terrible to hear that. And what worries me so much with my son now going off to college. And I just, the plus is, we just were talking about this last night, since we were all together for his graduation, that, it's one thing to raise I'm always telling parents, look, the only recourse left you have against this madness is to teach and model your children counterculturally, right? If you want them to succeed. Yes.
Which I still believe in wholeheartedly. And that's the way we did it. And, that's all. I mean, that's the way it has to be. On the other hand, the flip side of that is that if everybody else didn't do that, they're going to have a really hard time when it comes time to creating relationships themselves, finding someone who is like-minded.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe there's somebody for everybody and it will happen. So I'm just saying that's just a reality of it. So how we all raise our kids matters. Right?
Oh my gosh.
Because they're all going to have to marry each other. And if you've raised them totally different from the other person, then they're going to have a harder time. That's why the collective society does better when we agree, when we have some basic things we agree on. And those things, those values used to exist and they don't anymore.
Right.
So there's not a lot of commonality. It just takes that much longer to find like-minded people, I think.
Right. You have to wiggle through and meet a lot of people, to find somebody that you connect with, which, with those values of family and love and partnership and,
yep.
Not, I want to be a star. And I want to back up just a second. When I did say that about the girls in high school, he did find an amazing woman.
Your son?
They've been dating for, I think, 3 years now. And she's just lovely, family values, Christian, it just lovely.
That's awesome. It's so awesome.
Yeah. Makes my heart happy.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh God. Okay. So basically your final words or your message was, you said that and I think it's brilliant because I've wanted to drive this home, but you said that you're constantly surprised at how just knowing the information that Andre and I teach is not enough. It takes practice, being skillful, patient, and you need tools, because just hearing it isn't enough. You have to, it takes so much more than that. So explain what you mean by that.
Sure. And Andre started learning and teaching, God, 2007. It's been a long time. There's a lot of seminars I've gone to. I helped him on the podcast, and there are tools like if I get a knee-jerk reaction, he says something or does something, that reaction is going to happen because we are human. There's no way around it. Yeah. But then I notice this, especially also because I am more shy, I want to handle it right then. Because if I don't, I'm going to let it pass over, and then that's not a good idea. So what am I going to do to handle this or bring it up later? And that's where the tools come in, and the communication tools, where I have to literally sit myself down. Okay, Nancy, what's the plan? How am I going to, present this so that it's a successful conversation? And I would not know this normally. I would,
exactly.
So I'm using
just to clarify for everybody listening, what she's getting to, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, is the fact that men, if they say, no, I can't talk about it right now, you have to respect that. And you might want to finish the conversation right then. And he needs that space to be able to get his thoughts together and come back later. And that's just the way it is. And you have to accept it and not beat it down, because it's not going to go in a positive direction if you do that.
It's not. And I've ignited, and it hasn't happened often, but I wanted to make my point, and I was infuriated, and man, did it not go well. And my husband is a kind man, but it was not a good scenario. So now I'm like, trust the tools, trust the communication, and it works. So you can't just listen to this on a podcast or a weekend seminar. Okay, I got it. Because I've been working on this for 11, 12 years, and as our marriage morphs and changes, there's different things we need to work out. So I think it's, again, because so much is being thrown at us in society and culture, our best friends, girl, you need to take care of yourself. It's just overwhelming. I think this is more the time than ever to have someone coach you, to learn these tools, because it's not natural, and we're not being supported the way we should be just naturally to have a successful, loving relationship.
Amen. And of course, there haven't been any models. This is the divorce generation, right? So you've got that on top of it. I mean, it's basically just people shooting blanks. And you're absolutely right about the tools. Here's a little funny story. When I first started writing the Alpha, I don't even know what year that was. Let's see if it came out in 2017, 2014 or 15. Okay. I was starting, and a lot of writers do this. Just a little side note for people who are listening, if they're ever curious about this. You almost start writing for yourself to help yourself with something, right? Because writers need to get it out and work through it on paper. So that's what I was pretty much doing with that book. And I didn't feel like I was successful enough at it, right? So I took a step back, because I thought, well, I have to have it down perfect. If I'm going to write this and tell everybody else how it works, I have to be the perfect model for it. But it took several years. It's like you went from learning it, trying it out, seeing how great it was, then backtracking like 1,000 times by accident, right? And then doing it again. And then anyway, this whole process is years long. till I finally got comfortable, at least finishing the book, putting it out there and saying, okay, I'm not perfect. And even at the end of the book, I said, don't think that I have this down all the time and I'm perfect and you should follow me because I know what I'm doing every moment of the day. I do know what I'm doing, but I mess up. That's what I'm trying to say. so that I don't want to ever come off as there's going to be this day where you just never mess up. That's not the point. The point is that when you mess up, you recognize it immediately. And then you step back, implement the tools, and redirect.
Nice.
It's really, really important to understand that, because I think people think you either get there or you don't, or you fail at it, and it's just not that way. And I didn't want to come across as disingenuous, which is something nobody would describe me as in my real life. It's not who I am. I wanted to say, hey, here's what I've learned and still working on it, but here's how it works. And here's some tools that I use too. It's not just for you.
Well, Suzanne, if we go back to something so basic, but hard to do, kindness and respectfulness, and both ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like I teach my students this, you can ask your professor any question you want if it's done respectfully. You can talk to your husband or your boyfriend about anything if it's done respectfully. And are you trying to see the other side, or at least helping to understand it? Have the kindness you would want for yourself, but that's not what we're hearing, out there. It's take care of yourself.
Yes. And so there's that knee-jerk reaction to first of all, they don't even know what it means to be respectful to a man, because you're not supposed to be. Men are toxic, right. And men are always to blame whenever something goes wrong. So the first reaction is that, what do you mean respect my man? That they immediately think of submission and bowing your head down. And you said something about Kimley, some quote, it can't be all about him.
Yeah. That's the person who,
oh, that's the person who was saying that you should take care of yourself because it can't be all about him.
Exactly.
That's a knee-jerk reaction of an assumption. It's an assumption that, well, if you live by this, that must automatically mean this.
Yes.
In other words, so if you have any kind of traditional arrangement, you must be swallowed up whole and be a nothing. Like that's been so ingrained for so many years that it's just the automatic reaction, even if you don't even realize that you think that.
Yeah.
It just comes out of your mouth.
I know. It's, you don't know me, but whatever. So, oh man, we could go on all day.
But anyway, this has been so great. I really loved hearing your story, and I didn't obviously know all these details. So I thank you for reaching out to me and telling me so that I could bring you on the program and everybody else could hear this story. I mean, I shouldn't say story, partly the story, but just your message too. And
absolutely,
it's all so necessary. I feel like the more people who come out and discuss it, the more it will be not just understood, but accepted. And you're just simply never going to hear it in the culture and in the media. So thank God for podcasts, right?
Right. Exactly. And people will find you that are searching and going, you know what, this is not working. This is a bum deal. And you're right. It is people that have, they're tired. They're more in their 30s or 40s or freaking out or like, what do I have to look forward to?
They need a new roadmap.
Yes. Oh, I like that.
They absolutely do. Well, thank you for coming on, Nancy. So appreciate it. Say hi to Andre.
I sure will.
Andre. I shouldn't say Andres. The reason why I did that is because my assistant's husband's name is Andres, and Andres. So exactly Andre with an S on it.
Nice.
So I'm sometimes not confusing them, but accidentally using the wrong name.
Suzanne, I need to say, it's an absolute honor. Thank you for having me. Thank you for putting what you're doing out there unapologetically and helping to save people's lives really is what you're doing. And I just thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. I really appreciate that. That's very sweet. And okay, hopefully we will chat soon.
Okay, sounds great.
Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And that ends this hour of the Suzanne Venker Show. Don't forget to continue the conversation on Facebook by typing in the Facebook search bar, The Suzanne Venker Show. Also, please recommend this podcast to one friend you think would enjoy it, and don't forget to leave us a review on whatever platform you're now using. Finally, if you have a question or comment for me, you can email me at Suzanne@thesuzannevenkershow.com. Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a great week.